I have to say, like, XRP was built as a sort of value exchange system. It was built as a way to sort of pool liquidity. One of the earliest visions that we had for the XRP Ledger in 2012 was this idea of sort of public pools of liquidity that anybody could contribute to and draw off of.
The Global Currency Conundrum. Ripple Insights, May 24th, 2013. Economists have dreamed for decades of a global currency. John Maynard Keynes proposed a supranational currency to be called the Bancor. This is what many in the community have speculated XRP was meant to be, a supranational currency. Well, I'm here to tell you that's not true. So there are multiple economists who claimed how this universal currency could be like the universal language of Esperanto, where everything would just flow through this global currency. But that's a pipe dream, and even David Schwartz says it's naive. And currently, the US dollar has the exorbitant privilege of that. There's two trains of thoughts in this Ripple Insights from 2013, and this is the facts straight from Ripple. Everyone associates and focuses on the asset XRP. I'm here to tell you that there's more to the story. I'm sure many of you have heard me say the values in the protocol. Well, we're about to blow that wide open and blow this whole theory on XRP, reserve currency, and all that. It's not John Maynard Keynes' supranational currency. XRP is not the Bancor. No, we're not going to have a global reserve currency ever again. David Schwartz said that is naive to think that.
But I also think fundamentally the idea that there's going to be one world currency is just hopelessly naive.
So first, let's give a little background for everybody. John Maynard Keynes was the economist who proposed the supranational currency to be called the Bancor. This is what everyone raves about. It's never going to happen. Just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So let's drop that now from your mind, and let's look at this as a different perspective. I remind you, this is directly from Ripple. Most famously called for the increase in currency competition and imagined a proliferation of private currencies competing with the national government currencies, an idea that was considered improbable at the time, but recently has become a reality. In The Future of Money, Benjamin J. Cohen, an economic consultant to OpenCoin Inc., which is Ripple Labs' name prior to turning into Ripple Labs, argues that despite the clear benefits of a global currency, and now here's the paragraph that's going to blow your mind and everyone else's mind because it's going to make you think completely different about this whole thing. A larger transaction network, reduced transaction costs, market forces will resist the domination of a single currency. It is not in the best interests of governments to cede control of their national monies, and it's not in the best interest of individuals to submit to a global monetary monopoly. So Hayek said, why should we not let people choose freely what money they want to use? I have no objection to governments issuing money, but I believe their claim to a monopoly to be wholly harmful. And here we go. This currency conundrum seemed intractable until technology caught up with the theory. Hayek hoped that one day technology would arise to make a multi-currency model more efficient. Electronic calculators, which in seconds would give the equivalent of any price in any currency at the current rate, would soon be used everywhere. Here at Ripple, we believe we've done a bit better. Ripple's distributed exchange is the electronic calculator that Hayek dreamed of, but on a scale he never could imagine. Ripple users, aka XRPL, have complete currency choice. They can hold, trade, send, and receive payments in any currency they want, fast, nearly free, automatic, and independent of any institution. The XRPL currency exchange allows for the smooth global transactions craved by Mondale and the global currency marketplace imagined by Hayek. It is the currency solution that meets the demands of both the current global currency and the currency competition camps. If a global currency is like the universal language of Esperanto, then Ripple is like the Babel fish, the universal translator of science fiction, and more recently, Google. Notice how they didn't use XRP yet in there once. So the protocols in itself allow the XRP ledger to be the electronic calculator. Now, with that electronic calculator came an asset. That's a new type of asset because it secures the electronic calculator. Getting all the people of the world to speak a common language is a nice idea, but it's logistically impossible. Basically, Ripple argues against the idea of a global reserve again. And I totally agree. We need to stop looking to the past for everything. Nothing's going to be backed by gold. Those things are over. We're moving into a digital age where the internet of value is the vision. Remember that. The internet of value. A better solution is a universal translator of a distributed, decentralized, permissionless, public, global, distributed network that's an accounting system of record, a distributed exchange, and then has a native currency. And we're going to talk about the native currency, and it does have unique features that do allow it to be a dominant asset, just not another reserve. So this is where I think, everyone's trying to always relate something new to something old, but it's not. It's something new. So a better solution is Ripple, hence XRPL, the world's first universal translator for money. Now every currency has the smooth transactional qualities of a global currency. Everyone can choose freely what money they want to use, and it's all available for free on the largest transaction network ever created, the internet.
So with a bunch of other people, Jed McCaleb, at the very beginning, and Stephen Thomas, and later Chris Larson and other people, we built a blockchain that we really felt was meant to be owned by the people who were using it. And I know you think that's true of other blockchains, but it's just not. It's just not. And so we wanted to build a system that didn't have those kinds of incentives, a system that's built for the people who use it, a system that really delivers on the no middleman.
How is it different than what you wanted it to be back in 2012?
It's a tough question because it was so hard to know back then. We didn't have the kind of perspective that you get looking back years later. What we wanted was we wanted everybody to have access to a financial system that worked for them. We wanted people to be able to hold the asset that worked for them. I think one of the biggest things was that people effectively have no choice but to hold their national currency. One of the visions was this idea that I'm a gold bug, I like gold. But I'm not going to find someone who's going to pay me in gold, and I'm not going to find a grocery store that's going to take gold. Wouldn't it be awesome if my employer could pay me and I just got gold? And I could go to the grocery store and maybe they price in whatever national currency they want to price in, but I sort of pay with gold. The idea, and this is going to sound crazy, this idea actually started with Ryan Fugger, and it's his work that gave us the name Ripple for the company. His idea was that money solved a problem in a crude way that we could actually now solve in a better way. His vision was this idea that we didn't need a government to issue money. We could just sort of keep accounts between people so that we could sort of like, I do a favor for you and then you owe me one. And that sort of, that acts as a form of currency. And we built that into the XRP ledger. And it's kind of sad that that still seems like either way ahead of its time, or I still think that that's the coolest thing that we built.
It is.
I'm not going to go through this whole thing, but my point here is to completely obliterate something taken out of context in a Ripple Insights. XRP was not designed to be a reserve currency to compete with fiat. No, it was not. It's the currency of the electronic calculators. Now, is it being positioned to be the dominant electronic calculator? Yes. Asset used in the electronic calculator? Yes. And how is that going to drive its price up? Not running more volume through the electronic calculators. That's just pass through. It's the supplying of liquidity. So think of these electronic calculators as pools. They need liquidity. They need both assets. You can't go through the calculator unless you have liquidity. And people need to provide liquidity. You need XRP. You need to supply it. XRP is an electronic calculator in exchange of itself. Everything is public. It's automated. There's no operator of it. And now it's getting the AMMs. And it has an automated payment execution engine with pathfinding and auto bridging built into it. And we're going to see other enhancements, but the AMMs will give XRP its economic model. And that will be providing liquidity will earn revenue for those who hold the asset. And then the continuous auction mechanism will harvest the volatility and get yield. That is going to be very powerful. And then if they add on the incentives, so since you could shift incentivizing the market makers on RippleNet to shifting primary market, it only makes logical sense, as Bob Way said here, that incentivizing the volume through first, and then the liquidity providers the same way they incentivize miners on Bitcoin or validators on proof-of-stake networks. To secure it, you incentivize liquidity providers. Now, we don't know how that will take place. I don't know exactly how he means by the patent, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be that some portion in the future from the escrow or from the additional supply will be used to incentivize liquidity on the XRP ledger. And remember, public pools of global liquidity, meaning everyone can participate. There's no exclusions. There's no institutional only. Even if there are pools on the private sidechain, they have the same impact on the value of XRP if they're on the public chain or not. So we don't need to get so caught up in, is it on the public chain? Is it on the private chain? Just like, are the trades happening on an exchange or are they happening OTC? It doesn't matter. If they're happening, demand is demand. Those centralized exchanges are masquerading as exchanges. They're brokers and websites on legacy tech. The goal is to pull all of the value off of the exchanges and use it as liquidity into a trio of technologies that is built to be the ultimate exchange of value. Because it's a distributed exchange with an order book and matching engine and pathfinding and auto bridging with a payment execution engine. And now it is getting its final piece, the AMM. And then that will be the foundation for a new financial system based on the XRP ledger. It might not support the whole world, but it's going to support deep, deep pools of liquidity.
Assets like XRP that can move across international borders in seconds for pennies, will find a use case sort of in that very, very long tail. And the world in which I think we have the biggest success is the world where lots and lots of things get tokenized, because there's not like, if we tokenize everything, and that there isn't going to be liquidity between, Apple stock and this one real estate investment trust in the Seychelles Island. And here's a case where different assets can sort of compete to be that sort of intermediary asset. In today's world, the US dollar kind of has that market locked up. But the dollar has a big disadvantage, which is there's no canonical dollar. And as long as there's no canonical dollar, like dollars are not one asset, they're sort of a unit of measurement of asset. And so these sort of XRP is a canonical asset. Like if I have XRP and you want XRP, the default assumption is it should work, rather than with dollars when the default assumption is we can probably find some way to make it work eventually. So I think there's room in that ecosystem for XRP to compete as an intermediary asset, but it will have to compete on its own merits. If your strategy is we're going to force customers to use XRP because that makes me rich, like that's never going to work. I'm not going to be able to get you to do the things that make me rich. But what I can do is I can give you a lot of options and hope so that you can pick the best one. And then if the best one happens to make me rich, that's great for both of us. And it's on me, it's on the ecosystem, and then customers get fantastic experiences. One of the things I've said a lot is that there is no way a cryptocurrency project can succeed in the long term by trying to pull other cryptocurrencies down, other projects down. What we need to do is grow the pie.
We are moving into a tokenized world where everything will be tokenized, where Ripple's whole strategy is tokenization. And you heard it there from David Schwartz. The world we will be most successful in is where there are a lot of tokens and everything is tokenized, and positioning XRP to compete. And that's what the liquidity pools are for. The AMM specification is to position XRP to be the dominant asset because of the protocols and because of the ecosystem that is surrounding it. So I hope that resonated with everyone.